Heather, do you have taco earrings on
Yes,
right now?
I have taco earrings
I
on.
love it. I love it.
Little
I love it.
vintage
I love it.
T-shirt.
Yeah, round of applause for that one. That's incredible. First question for you.
Yes.
Has culture always been a critical part of your business strategy? And if so, why?
Yes, and it's because culture has always been a big part of my life.
Right.
Growing up in the United States as a child of immigrants, feeling like I was never Indian enough in India or American enough in the United States, I kind of was a child between two worlds. And so had no choice but to be highly aware of culture from a very young age. That certainly has then, as I've grown and run businesses of my own, worked in businesses, had to figure out how do I, bringing my whole self to something often does bring my culture, and acknowledging culture of others and being very curious to learn about how other people grew up, what their family rituals were like, what their traditions were like. And we moved around quite a bit. So I was born in upstate New York, but lived in Ohio, Philly for the most part, England, Colorado, Seattle, North Carolina. So I've gotten to see a lot of this country and meet some incredible people and have some wonderful experiences. And so that has all informed everything I've ever done. And with that, curiosity in other people and curiosity in other experiences and lives has just been, because I've learned so much and been able to say, this seems to thrive in this environment, let's try it out. It has allowed me to, I think it's uniquely American, that what culture means in this country versus in a lot of other countries around the world, because it truly is, at its best, a melting pot of everyone coming together and recognizing we are not the same, but by bringing different things to the table, what can we learn from each other? How can we grow? How can we be curious? And how can we expand our mindset a little bit? So it's been a big part of, because it's been a big part of my life, it's been a big part of my business. And a big part of culture is listening.
Right.
Is knowing you don't have all the answers. So learning to ask really good questions and to ask for people's advice. And just say, I don't know this.
Right.
Having a sense of humility, but say, I want to learn.
For sure. There's been several key words that have stood out throughout this afternoon. Culture, identifiers, and simply the phrase different is good. So for you, was there an aha moment where you realized culture is a trait or a thing that can help take your business over the top, or something that you should really root your business in? Or has it always been that?
I think it's always been it, but I have to credit my parents
Right.
with that, because for as much as in other spaces I felt like a child between worlds, home was always a place that embraced the multitudes that make up culture. So, you know, with macaroni and cheese, we had like a spicy Indian relish called avokai to jazz it up. On pizza, it would be red chili flakes and probably a lot of jalapenos.
Right.
And whenever we go to Taco Bell, we are those people who take a lot of Diablo and fire packets. And
Diablo, my guy right here, he was the only one that loved Diablo earlier. Yeah.
I'm with you. I'm with you, but I'm like a Diablo fire combo. Like I need to like open them at the same time and drizzle it. That's what's up. You know, it is. We were like, we are Indian and we are American, and we are going to show up with those multitudes at home. And so, you know, it was modeled for me at a very young age that it's never been conscious because it just feels like it's a part of me. But as I have built businesses, certainly, you know, culture also can be generational culture too. My day job is working with my father and all of his friends who are older than me. So when someone asks me if we had a maternity leave policy at Roche and Pharma, and I go, yes, for myself, but we have a much more popular grandparental leave policy because we have a lot of new grandparents in our company, and this is what we've done to support them.
Right.
And so, you know, when we talk about culture, it's not just about, you know, race or gender identity or geography. It is also generational.
Right.
And to me, I'm really lucky to have gotten the chance to learn from a lot of very smart people who have lived a lot of life.
Yep.
And then also by teaching them how to use Zoom, they were very helpful for their grandkids' Zoom school. last year.
Yeah, that Zoom learning course was kind of tricky early in the pandemic, right? Yeah.
I'm still like
Dad, unmute yourself.
traumatized by
he's just
it.
talking and he's on mute the whole
Yeah.
time. Yeah. Culture moves so fast, and having to build a business that's nimble enough to adjust to our ever-changing audiences. How have you been able to do that?
I mean, it's a really great question because there is the balance of what you know and what you don't know. So for so many people here, you know how to run successful restaurants. Like that is your core business. But then social media has kind of become this part of marketing and communication and our culture that didn't just exist. It didn't exist 20 years ago. And it's how do you all of a sudden take what you are best in class in and be like, well, how do I deal with this to add to my bottom line in the business? And so what I have learned is I bring on the people who know how to do that. And it starts with, for me, I have built my content team off people I've met on Instagram.
Wow.
Like my assistant DM'd me and said, I would love to work with you. Can I do a project for you, see if this works for us? And if it does, we talk about a more formal role. My manager pitched me over an Instagram DM.
Wow.
And my other assistant did the same thing, and she just delivered a baby today, and I'm so excited for her.
That's amazing.
And, I built this team of really incredible women who, how we work is not how I have worked earlier in my career. We work asynchronously. We hop on calls when we need to. We check in regularly. But I trust them to do their jobs when things need to get done, and I leave them largely alone. So there is no, we are on Zooms for the sake of doing Zooms or having meetings just to say we had a meeting.
Right.
We connect when we need to. We work when we work best, and we all have the space to live our lives. And that, when I came out of college, to me, I would never have guessed that is how I work. Yeah. But it's been incredibly successful, especially in a time where COVID has changed everything.
Changed everything. Did you arrive at that point willingly, or did it take kind of trial and error to get to that point?
No, I arrived at that point pre-COVID. I guess I had always benefited. I went into technical sales at Cisco right out of college. So being in field sales, if you're in an office, you're not doing your job. You're expected to be with your clients and working and meeting. So this whole idea of button seat culture, I mercifully only had to deal with for a year at job training, and then it was on my own, and that's when I realized this is how I work best. Yeah. Now I have friends who work much better by having more structure in their workday or having that type of in-person communication. For me, I work out of a co-working space a couple days a week to give myself that socialization and that feeling of being around people, something I've missed very much part of the pandemic that I'm happy to return to. But, I believe that with culture changing at such a fast rate and technology enabling, I think, part of the best parts of culture, so some of the worst parts of our culture, but we're not going to talk about that. It is an opportunity to rethink how we work and why we work. Right. And if you hire smart, talented people that can benefit from having flexibility, I think it's great for your business to offer them that flexibility in how it works for them and taking an individualized approach to it, because you can't just have one blanket policy. Yeah. Remote work doesn't work if you're on Zoom all day. Right. Remote work works if you have large asynchronous blocks or meeting-free days when you are working remotely and collaborating and meeting in person when you're in the office setting.
Culture is this thing, while it's rooted in something and kind of always has these certain traits, it's ever changing, like we talked about earlier. How do you listen to culture and stay relevant? What is your process like?
I have a lot of my cousins' kids who are like in they're teenagers and early, like in their 20s. And I remember when like they were the young kids and I was the cool aunt. And now I'm like, so what's up with this? Like, is Snapchat still a thing? Right. Can someone explain TikTok to me? And so I ask the young people in my life who keep me young. And then my favorite thing to do when I do that is to have like my parents in that conversation too, because I think they're curious people and they're really smart people. And again, when we think about generational, we all have a lot to learn from one another. Yeah. I mean, one of these days I'll probably get my mom to do like a TikTok dance with me, and my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law is like now a micro-influencer and like doing workout videos. She posts grandma workouts and recipes. That's amazing. And it's amazing. So I taught her how to edit video and put something together and where to find trending sounds. And so to me, that's an example of when you think about the culture and staying engaged, that's how I've done it, where I'm the young one,
Right.
and I get to be the old and be like, so explain to me like
Right.
all these things, transitions, help me with this. But yeah.